Today we visited the historic village of Eyam. It's spelt Eyam, but is pronounced Eyam. It's in the Peak District in Derbyshire, UK. Eyam Hall is a beautiful Jacobean manor house, lived in by the same family since it was built as a wedding present by Thomas Wright in 1672. Today, Eyam is a picture postcard village with chocolate box cottages and floral cottage gardens, quintessentially English. What happened in the village in 1665 and 1666 is stuff of legend and is perhaps why Eyam is most famous today. 1665 to 1666 was the last major epidemic of plague to occur in England. And as usual, the plague was concentrated more in London. The movement of the rich from London to their rural country homes meant that the Great Plague spread quickly across the country, and rural areas that may previously have been safe from the disease of urban areas were also exposed. The plague in Eyam arrived in late August 1665. It came in a parcel of cloth sent from London to the village tailor Alexander Hadfield. Hadfield's assistant George Vickers spread the cloth out by the fire to air and found it was infested with rat fleas. A few days later, Vickers was dead, with his burial being recorded in parish registers on the 7th of September 1665. By mid-September, the death toll stood at 5, and by October, 25. At this time, Eyam had two reverends, Reverend Thomas Stanley and Reverend William Mompesson. Both men were highly educated, and it was the actions of Stanley and Mompesson that resulted in the outbreak of plague in Eyam being contained to the village and not spreading to the nearby city of Sheffield. The villagers, along with the reverends, agreed to take drastic action. Some of this included, and which undoubtedly saved the lives of thousands in the surrounding area, the plan to bury all plague victims as quickly as possible and as near to the place they died rather than in the village cemetery. Reverend Mompesson's wife, Catherine, was the exception, as she lived in the rectory next to the churchyard. Villagers also moved to open-air services to avoid sitting together tightly packed within the church. Perhaps the most drastic action, and one that would go on to save countless lives, would be the enaction of a cordon around the village. Nobody in and nobody out. And as the village wasn't self-sustaining, the villagers would rely on their neighbouring villages, such as Stony Middleton, to bring supplies to the quarantine line. And at that line there was a boundary stone which had holes in it, and the villagers would pour in vinegar and then place the money into the vinegar, allowing the neighbours to collect the money in payment for the goods they'd brought to them and keeping them safe. 14 long months after the plague first visited Eyam, it was over, and the little village had paid a high price indeed. Percentage-wise, they suffered a higher death toll than that of London, with 260 Eyam villagers dying over the 14 months of plague out of the total population of 800. A total of 76 families were affected by the plague, and many, such as the Thorpe family, were wiped out completely. The impact on medical understanding from what the villagers did at Eyam was significant. The use of isolation wards and quarantine zones is today a standard practice, but back then this was unheard of. It was truly pioneering and saved possibly hundreds of thousands of lives across northern England by containing the spread. Even the practice of burying bodies close to where people die has been seen recently in the Ebola outbreaks in Africa. I'll leave you with the words of Victorian local historian William Wood, who had this to say about Eyam. Let all who tread the green fields of Eyam remember, with feelings of awe and veneration, that beneath their feet repose the ashes of those moral heroes who, with a sublime, heroic and unparalleled resolution, gave up their lives, yet doomed themselves to pestilential death to save the surrounding country. Their self-sacrifice is unequalled in the annals of the world. Thank you for watching and listening. Bye for now.